All right, well, welcome everybody. Those that are back from continuing on from last year and new people, we just welcome you. Today is March 15th, 2025, and we're excited to start this first day of the new series in 2025. So Joe has put an amazing presentation together for us. So you can go ahead and get started. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everyone, also for uh, returning. And for those new, welcome as you come in. I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen off so I can avoid a little bit of latency here. It tends to happen on my end. But I'm Joe Hayse. Kathy Kreidler is with us as well, same as last year. What we're going to do is go over a recap for those who are here. And you see this particular slide. It's been changed a little bit on the color palette, but it's going to be what will greet you as you attend these meetings and as you see the replays. So the replay thumbnail will have the same update. First thing that will jump out at you if you're on the replays, it'll be prompting readers or viewers to the date and the content. So this is actually a recap from last year. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen off. Minimize you guys. Okay, what I'm going to do is open up the same way. Again, well, as far as the thumbnail goes, but then I'm going to also open it up for just some primer questions anybody may have. So some questions for, 5 or so minutes. If they're quick, if they can be answered quickly, hopefully you would know that, anticipate that, a quick answer. And then we'll go into the bulk of the presentation and then leave the last 15 or 20 minutes for follow-up questions. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go over the recap. Let you guys know what we've accomplished, and all that we did over the past 4 months. And it was a lot, believe me. So the next 2 weeks, this will be updated, and then you'll see these bullet points change and prepare you for the slide presentation for that week, for that training day. Okay, so we've actually did more than these. These were our main points during the first week of November. And then the postponement, or the reasons for the postponement for the actual last training day that was scheduled. Now the 2025, this area here is actually quite large, so there's really no way to give you guys a kind of a breakdown synopsis of some of the details, but the reasons why we put a screech on that last day and rescheduled was for the radio communication network calibration and training. Significant strides were made in this area. I think we also have our APCMD technician and mastermind behind that role. So we can maybe, if he has something, Bobby, if you want to share that, just kind of let us know whenever you'd like towards the end. And I'll make space for the next training material to follow up on this success. Early PKTF Assembly Liaison interviews, I think we accomplished 9 of those. So that was good. And then as far as annual, which happens in November, every November, website design updates, plugins, all of those things. A major reinstatement of the website happens then. We don't have Luis or Boyd today. They're actually on another call with the Federation Fiduciary Office, but they will have material for us to discuss on the next training day, which is training day 1. And if anybody wants to know what the reasoning behind day 0 is, you're, coming in, for new folks coming in, just getting a chance to catch their bearings, see where they are, and not feel like they're inundated with a whole lot of material. So this is really, day 0 is a preliminary day. And if somebody asks you, what does that mean? Of course, appreciate their questioning. Just take a little time to explain what that is, as opposed to a day 1, day 2, day 3, which are more inundated with material discussion. Let's see, point 2, International Assembly outreach updates. That's Louise, so she'll be providing that discussion for you guys pertaining to liaisons in those follow-ups in 2 weeks. Also, as well, she has a link on our site. You can find that, navigate through, and find that on our YouTube channel. The section that she has for what she's working on in this arena. State Guard update. This was as far as the meeting for 2024, which was in California last November. It was not feasible for the folks who were there. There were no liaisons and still are no liaisons. There is considerable interest, and there is an actual office in California to facilitate liaison interactions. That will be also updated on the site this evening, so you'll be able to see that. I'm not going to go into site updates and illustrate that for you guys. This is something that's also going to be added to some of the training aids for you guys on our UGE platform or somewhere else that will provide that material for you to see as a kind of an audio video template so that you can go in and you can get familiarized with the walkthrough of the site updates, where things are, how to navigate, so that you can then go back to your assembly, of course, and let them know, have them become familiarized with it through you. Anyway, to go back to this, we do hope to meet here, and we still have quite a bit of time for this interaction to happen in Tampa, Florida. It's the same event, it's just in a different area of the country. So it'll be in Tampa. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the weeks and months to come, and should have a lot of, we fully expect to have a presence and expectation of presence to even present during this convention. So one moment, David, let me finish this last point. I'll get to you next. The international public notice, again, this is Boyd's area. There's plenty of significant build out on this as well. So, but we'll need Boyd to be here, as also for Louise in her part regarding liaison participation and the strategy task force on that. Okay, go ahead, Richard or David.
So you would like to see as many liaisons as possible there on Florida then there in November, it sounds like, right?
Yes, and there are two already.
Interesting.
So, yeah, really excited about that.
Nice. That's all.
Great segue. Great segue here. So now I don't see anybody, and my camera's off too, so you can't see me. But Kathy, can you see either in the chat or anybody who speaks up? Is anybody here whose state where you are on is not in any shade of green? Or let me rephrase that: any shade of green or dark maroon. So, for instance, is anybody here from Oregon? Anybody here from any other state that's not green? Put it that way. Anybody here from New York, Maryland?
We do have Norma's from New York.
Maryland.
Maryland, right? Elizabeth, yeah.
Okay. And then somebody also here from New York.
Norma, you're in New York, correct?
Farley, I know Farley's in Pennsylvania, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, so Farley or Laurie, let me just tell you, I'm going to go ahead and update Pennsylvania. It should have already been updated, so apologize for that, if that was your question. If not, go ahead. Okay. All right, so Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania.
Hanging off the edge.
Okay.
I'm from New
Right.
York. I was muted, so I couldn't let you know. Sorry.
Okay.
Norma.
Okay.
Norma Perez.
Okay, thank you. And if you want, just for added measure, if you can, just put that in the chat as well to confirm, and then we'll go ahead and update this section of the new site. And I would toggle through to current liaison map. If I was to click this, it would take you to the section on the PKTF news site where it shows exactly this, and it's an off-canvas illustration providing detail for every and the color code configuration on the site for every state. To give you an example here, all of these light green states has an office, a liaison office. The dark green are those who've had interviews or an office. And then I think of the dark green are those who have an interest. I'll have to look at the color code configuration. I think it is that. But well, anyway, you can go to the map here, or go to the PKTF news site, and you can access that information. Thank you for that. Okay, so now we're going to jump right into this. I will toggle away from this page, from this slide by this article when I click it. So you guys can see how information is shared, where it's shared, how you can comment on them, and everything with regards to that. Now, if you'll see this diagram, it's a borrowed animate or a PowerPoint presentation, but the touch points are used consistently as a liaison. You can always talk about how they are and provide examples of how they're used as a means of analysis. And it's not a lot, especially for those new, it may seem like this is a lot, but it's not. But it deserves, your time deserves the opportunities to see how this machine actually works. And it works very, very well and very, very smoothly with not a lot of moving parts. But competitive or comparative analysis, this helps, this angle projection helps you to evaluate the landscape regarding law enforcement and their counterparts, vice versa, peacekeeping, peacemakers, peace holders, peacekeepers, and their counterparts, which are law enforcement, either local or state, augmented police departments or municipal sheriffs, state police officers, and the services that they use to help augment their services. So state police utilizes other sources outside of their state through through various agencies, through the Department of Justice, so on and so forth. This is your comparative or competitive analysis of these counterparts. Questionnaires are always used, can be built for use, but just the idea of inquiring and having that precocious mind like a reporter. The more questions you ask, the more answers you're expected to have, and as far as confirming the thoroughness of your answers, this is kind of what, without going into too much detail, this is how this works through. One moment, Dave, unless it's about one of the last two. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was competitive analysis. Is that just within state on a state LEO, or does that include federal
Yes.
as well?
Yep. You're just analyzing the differences, the competitive or comparative edges of your peacekeepers counterparts. So if you have a county guardian, which is a county reeve, soil jurisdiction, how is that comparative or competitive by way of services to their counterparts, which is, police department, if your county has one, certainly a sheriff's office.
Okay.
You should definitely have one of those. So yeah.
State troopers, all that stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I yield. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then observation is a little bit self-explanatory, but the evaluation through these perspectives, your observation kind of leads you into then opening yourself up for interviews, providing reports, interviews, whether you're interviewing or someone is interviewing you. Kind of the comfort zone, for some of you who already are aware, liaisons is such a comfortable zone because you're not confrontational. You are providing adequate details for investigators or inquirers who are wanting to learn more and learn face to face from a safe distance, not only for themselves to feel awkward or intrusive or anything accusatory or suspicious on their part. All of these things is it's a really comfortable medium area to provide for all that these liaisons offer. Okay. And then you want to, this is a portion of examination. You examine it, your assembly liaisons, assembly militia's work. You advocate. The more and more you learn about it, as then becoming a subject matter expert and advocate for those works, you become comfortable with providing those in segmented presentations in the form of an interview. In due time, maybe not you, but another liaison from your same state that joins you in the effort. Assessments, they're always assessing everything. And it's a simple process too. So it's mainly a go or no go type of assessment. If things are a go, that means things that you're familiar with and that you've learned. Checks those blocks, things of any kind of concerns, something that you might sense may not be safe. Never mind that it may or may not be, but to always ask and just find out more detail. You'll learn more about that as we go. And that's your basic analysis tool pouch. Let me go ahead and go to the link. Try this. Okay, so that link leads us right to this article. I don't want to read the article through and through, but you can see where articles are found and where articles moving forward will only be found. We are repurposing the articles that are available on the PKTF news site to that of posted memorandums. So you'll be able to see and access those that information, authorized information, significant changes, things like that. Everybody will get the opportunity to see how that goes through and when and all that good stuff. But as far as articles and the ability to comment on those articles, share those articles, you can subscribe to this as well, and you can comment. So there's that. Let's see if I can go back easily. Okay, can you hear me? I'm muted and not unmuted.
We can hear you.
All right. All right, let me know when you see this extremely busy slide.
We can see it.
Okay, well, it was built busy on purpose because of the animation here or the graphic here. Also emphasizes the underpinnings of training, emphasis on training, and the information all around this graphic helps to emphasize training through and through. But what usually initiates training into training are things like education, anything that's an abstract that can become or develop into from a concept to an abstract, then into something more tangible. All of these things you can relate to being a necessity that then culminates into then training and moving forward. And they're a bit synonymous. One could argue that education and training are interchangeable, but they're actually not. You'll read at the bottom here as far as, and it's accurate. And at least in my comprehension, education is a baseline. When you give an example in school, you learn things through education. You take courses and additional courses that substantiate initial courses of education. And then you put that education into more proven effective. For instance, learning how to fly a plane. You learn first through, just the fundamentals, you build that base fundamental, and then you go out and actually start training, logging in hours, actually going in hands-on is more on the lines of training as opposed to scholastic education. Well, that's kind of where we're at in the, as far as the qualifier for what a liaison offers to your assemblies. Now, we do have some questions that were imagined, and they're great. They're a little bit confrontational, one would say. I don't see that as such necessarily, but it has provided an opportunity for us to kind of go through some of those. We won't do those this evening, but we will in other trainings coming up, how to deal with what the deciding factor is or qualifier is for you as liaisons for your assembly beyond just, education. We also have an example of the difference between education and training in the ombudsman education or international think tank. And, definitely a qualifier in that by comparison is the certification achievement through training that will be what constitutes actual training or certification and the know-how that was built upon through the education aspect that we, and I can show you where that is also on the site. But that's the difference ultimately. But we do have challenges, and you can read them here. The significance to providing actual service through training, it deals with the overall health and longevity of your ability to be that liaison and all of the details around that. Now, the last year material in hindsight, and now discussing the differences and making that differentiation between education and training, some of that material, or mainly all of that material, we could say, is actually more of an education, a primer, a foundation that now takes us into 2025, so we can now start shifting into educate our training. Some of that training will be role playing, actually having a handbook. We'll talk about that a little bit later tonight as well. Dealing with actual scenarios, things that are taking place on your assembly, all of which should be productive. If anything is challenging, the training aspect will definitely show you how to steer clear of those and help to minimize, reduce, or eliminate any of those, any kind of challenges that you may have. And again, the training aspect, which is what we'll go through 2025, will help substantiate that. Any questions about this? I wanted to kind of leave it on here. If anybody has any questions on what you see, we don't have to read the entire slide, but you can see it as you will. I'll give everybody a moment. If anything jumps out at you, go ahead and answer. Go ahead and ask that question.
Matt,
Sure, go ahead.
if you're only part of an interim sessions committee on an assembly and your official assembly doesn't recognize you and thinks you're part of another infiltrator assembly and don't want anything to do with the PKTF, I mean, can we still, I mean, it'll still be useful for us to practice this anyhow in anticipation of things changing, I would imagine, right? It's not kind of a frivolous activity for us at this point, right?
Right. Yeah. And actually, let me see where is that on here on the slide? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is a long way around emphasizing that some of the assemblies to date, very few, but some, they don't seem to see the value. Now, I don't know who's making that decision yet. David can probably share just a little bit more without getting too much into the nuances of it. But yes, there are some assemblies, believe it or not, that do not yet see the value in this. Now, I can say, let's just say safely, is because there's not training being gone over or discussed that even people who reviewed the replays can even see. So if that's any kind of accuracy for that argument, well, then let's meet that challenge for 2025 and actually start diving into training. So that's where I would go with that to help try to minimize, reduce, or eliminate those challenges. That would be my recommendation.
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, so I left that on there for people to try to read. All right. So now here we are, where we go actually through transitioning from arguably the majority of the material for 2024, that being education, solid education, really great primers. Every single training session is pretty solid, definitely usable in all occasions, and would definitely, I could see the material along with any other updates added to an actual education study book, or a class book, a scholastic book, I would say. And that's fitting for where it would be in an education setting, a scholastic setting. But then in a technical setting or a hands-on, now we start moving into what we're going to be providing, which is an actual handbook, not an education book, but an actual handbook, an operations manual. And we'll touch base. That's actually be the last thing we touch base on tonight. Does anybody want to help me read through these transition points? What they are, these are markers. Where you are now is where we were the same time last year with the day 0. And then we move into talk through baseline. This is basically a reflection of 2024, and then a kind of a recurrence 2024 or 2025 day 0. Now we're going to go from baseline education, where we're talking about it, to then more into more solid training. We've already broke ground on the onboarding process and what that is, and then we start transitioning into actionable service. So does anybody want to go ahead and read? If anybody would like to read, go ahead and read the teal green, or as much as you would like. Go ahead. Anybody?
I'm happy to help you out, Joe. Good evening. Day 0,
Kimberly.
sure, whereby all training concepts and approaches to train are spread out and described across the board. 2, baseline education, whereby all baselines are expounded upon based upon a balance between historical service organizations, jurisdictional sensitivities, and the public law. 3, hardline training, whereby group dynamic participation plays a pivotal role between baseline education and committee synergistics with modular state assembly environments. 4, onboarding, mimicking the modular approach from baseline education to hardline training when completed and placing each adept peacekeeping liaison into service position within their own assemblies. 5, service. After having completed all modular requirements, interviews, and personal investment into each state assembly is owed, provided in terms of subject matter expertise, peacekeeping efforts.
Okay, I think I might need to fix that sentence, but okay, so what you're seeing here really is the full rotation. People who are here new, welcome again. Great, excited to have you. And this is what you're seeing is where you actually are and where you would have been the same time last year. Okay, so just to kind of get a feel, this just is a guiding rope, if you will, and markers on where you will be for 2025 if you're new, and if you're ongoing and you may be in the onboarding process. Most of this is familiar, except for significance on point 3 regarding hardline training. But we will circle back as we are now, and emphasizing that we are starting to not only transition to training, but also management, liaison management, and that's going to be in series 2. Where we start talking about breaking off and working with the concept of actually breaking off for meetings with actually liaisons who are no longer in training, but now are actually in service at that time, but not before training, of course. So all of that is to be expected. And anybody, which is exciting though, is anybody who does complete their onboarding process and receives their common access badges and anything that where they would like to serve as a liaison, a solo liaison, or a team of liaisons like Florida, we can actually make that happen as well right now. We don't actually, if this is alluding to or assuming that you have to wait, any of you have to wait until the end of this year for liaison management meetings, that's not the case. Or if you have to wait for onboarding till the end of the year, also that's not the case. But we just want to put an emphasis on the fact that training begins this year. Okay, this is an older slide, but this is something that you will expect to have. You'll be made known, very well aware of where this information, where it's being brought forward. It's a group effort around the world. This term is used, I would have to say, everywhere. I don't know if Canada, I know Gwen's on the call, but I don't know. Gwen, if you could speak up, if you're able to, if you can see where my cursor is. Is
Yes,
this term, hi Gwen, have you ever heard this term used in Canada?
The truth begins here.
Yes.
Yes, we have. We have a liaison that reports weekly to us, or bi-weekly, depending on our meetings, and he's been keeping us up to date.
Well, no, I'm pointing at 2 words here in quotation: sovereign citizen. Has your parliamentary?
Sorry,
Yes.
I'll get with it. On Canada, we don't seem to have the problem with sovereign citizen. What we have here on Canada is free man on the land that they quite frequently want to confuse us with. And yeah, it's not a good scene. So we try to avoid, confusion and we simply say we're on the land and soil jurisdiction. People seem to be okay with that because we have to differentiate ourselves from the free man on the land. I yield.
Okay, but what I'm trying to get at, have you seen any of your official, your law enforcement, have you seen any articles, publications, circulars, bulletins of any sort where they actually use this term, this term right here, sovereign citizen?
Not to my awareness. And of course, we have the RCMP on Canada.
Right.
So
right.
they haven't sort of been tweaked against that at all. I think that Canada is such a diverse compilation in our provinces that they have unique problems to each province. And I think that it's not been a problem for them. So I don't think there's an official training against it. I did have a traffic stop with an individual who was a peace officer, and I was asking him about license plates and said, well, if there's no alternative, how would one use an alternative and where would we find it? And he was unaware even of Regulation Z or any of these things where as Canadians we might go to find rectification of some of the issues. So I think they're very naive here on Canada, and I'm talking about the public Canada, not Terra Canada. So I yield.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Gwen. That's interesting. Maybe this makes the effort a little easier for us, at least in North America here, in the States, because this term is being used to its own detriment. Fortunately for sovereigns, that's interesting. So, is anybody else from another English-speaking country that's here? Is anybody here from South Africa or Australia?
I'm here if I can speak, Joe.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yes, we've had that sovereign citizen issue
Oh,
materialise here on Victoria, and actually I've had it put back to me in that pejorative sense in a first-hand nature. I yield.
okay, good. Okay, so we have a little bit of variation between the 5 main English-speaking countries, so that's really good. So what I'm getting at is, as a collective effort, hopefully and optimistically, even this year, this pejorative will start to evaporate because it's going to lose steam because of its weakness. It's very paper tigerish, and perhaps one could argue, and I would probably join that argument, that it was designed that way. It was designed to be weak in its offensiveness. Okay, just because they've joined the two and they haven't deviated from the two, and they've attempted currently to latch something that would be synonymous to this offensive term, and that would be an American state national. We're already on top of this. So this panel that you see here is from another platform that we have, and you can subscribe to the platform. I think you click this button and subscribe. But just know that there is a campaign or a task force to maintain peace and make this distinction and make this determination between jurisdictions and sovereignty and citizenry and nationality, all of these things combined. This term should go the way of the dodo bird this year. So that's just know that, and you can be a part of this. This is why this slide was emphasized. It's not that you necessarily would be championing these efforts yourself, but you can definitely advocate for and have information at your fingertips, and you can definitely do your part if you so choose to educate those on what material differentiates and separates these two words as they should be. Both words by themselves are completely reasonable and definitive, or can lead to more information describing the two, but they certainly shouldn't be together or synonymous with any other variation or concept, such as American state national. I'll go ahead and switch over here, but I can tell you this, and this is where we see this transitioning. It's because that it's not too current enough. It is an update from 2011, but whoever it may be that has thought to latch upon this pejorative to that of American state national They have not, and they never will, and they haven't before, tried to assert this as synonymous with an American state citizen. Because if they did, then the jig would be up, just to kind of be frank a little bit. If they ever tried to do that, it would be over for them because now they're stuck. So they won't, but they have gone so far as to claim that this and American State National as being somewhat synonymous. So it's really clever. I consider that a move forward, and someone attempting to remain on their square and play this game have probably done the sovereign men and women in their proper jurisdiction a favor by doing that, by attempting to claim that this and American State National are one and the same. And we know they're not, that they're not, and they will never bring American state citizens. They won't do this part. They won't let these go, but they won't make any assertion for citizenship or trying to separate the two. But we'll do that for them. So you have that much to look forward to. Uh-oh. My graphic didn't show up here. That's not good. Okay, so what's supposed to be here? I had a meeting with actually a role play session earlier today, a few hours ago, and we actually set this diagram in motion. So what you'll see here is the same as either that's on your or on your state or soon to be on your state. And that would be an assembly militia commander, field commander, at least one county guardian or reeve, and their counterpart would be a municipal sheriff or constitutional sheriff. So I'm kind of pointing here where he would have been. There's actually 3 in this icon, in this graphic. Here would have been the marshal at arms, or here would have been the marshal at arms to the right. And the graphic here will be represented the militia commander, and here would be at least one county guardian. So what we did, and this is for you directly, this is a little bit of meat and potatoes here, is the fact that your assemblies or you as a liaison of interest or a liaison in training or an onboarded liaison in office, you're going to be met with the opportunities to either meet with your liaison, your assembly militia commander in a subcommittee or in any other that's part of a committee driver of your assembly militia pillar. So, and to make this even easier, while I kind of barrel through with this progress slide here, there will be replays provided to you also on those same platforms where you can find audio video tutorial walkthroughs of the websites. You're actually going to be able to see role plays of this exact interaction. Sorry, this graphic wasn't here. It would have been great, but that's what this was. You're actually meeting in a subcommittee, so it's a temporary, limited, hyper-focused committee that's been assigned to a particular committee. It could be provisions, operations, education, something that drives your assembly militia. And you'll meet with the advisor and the field operations commander and discuss things, how you can help learn more about what your state assembly militia pillar is working on. You can answer questions to the extent that you're able at that time in these meetings. And at the same time, they can ask you questions, and then you bring those questions back here and during training, and then we start moving into the training and build off of scenarios that you have. We can make them generalized if they're a little bit maybe confrontational somewhat or something, without going too much into unnecessary details, but just the finer points that you may see in your assessment, you practicing your assessment tools, things that you would like to share with everybody here. So this is where this happens. This is the environment where those details are shared and gathered back and forth between you and your assembly militia commander, also with one of your county sheriffs, your county reeves, and then your marshal at arms, all 3 of which are peacekeepers. Okay. So there's you here, especially if you're here now, season from 2024, new here today. This is where you find yourself eventually. Even if tomorrow is your General Assembly meeting, where you announce, or maybe they know you're already, interested in this role. So here you are now, or you're returning and you're providing them a 2025 update on these kinds of details. Now, I can tell you, none of this was discussed in this fashion last year. Okay. No dynamics or variation or options, how you start to engage with your assembly militia commander and share information to them and them back to you, and just kind of build that out. What does that look like? You'll know, because we are providing to the Federation Fiduciary Office, Military Affairs Liaison Office, those same role plays. Okay. So they're scripted really well. You can hardly tell that they're even role plays, maybe at first, because we let people know that these are role play exercises. But they're very informative, and you can definitely see yourself doing as those who are role playing. And I'm a part of that, so you'll see me there. It's a state that's pretty well evolved, so and involved in their state border defense operations. So, everybody is pretty well along in that scenario. Here you have option B, where you start to bring on more than one liaison, and then you start utilizing. Okay, if there's this subcommittee, and I'm speaking on this day by myself with the field command about this and that regarding operations, well, then you're tailored or provided information tailor-made for operations. The details that, operations will be manuals that your commander may have, or is advising people who are in the committee to work on. And so now you're there with the members of that committee, or you're part of the subcommittee, the underpinning of that operations committee, and you're gathering information so that you can build familiarity, then share that same content in a digestible format with us here in training. And then everybody gets a feel and gets to share all of they're somewhat similar, or they all basically will be similar. For example, operations committee, provisions committee, education committee, membership committee, communications committee. Those 5 are usually modular with any assembly militia. So you'll have them, and they're the drivers. But if you say, it's just me, and I have a little bit of communications background, so I'm somewhat familiar with the details. We have a communications committee. You will ask your field commander, do we have time slated to create a subcommittee and just hyper focus on communications that I can bring back to our training series, like that. These are kind of things you can talk about and participate with, and just help, because the first thing that your assembly is going to want to provide itself is a liaison who can help validate your assembly militia. That's going to be one of the first things that helps you then build out your networking opportunities for your state. Okay. Any questions with this? I'll pause for a moment. First option. Okay. Second option would be 2 or more liaisons. 2 or more, then you can start branching out into more of the areas that you're learning about. Again, state assembly standing would constitute state assembly validation for all 4 pillars. But assembly liaisons through the Peacekeeping Task Force only dedicates their efforts for validation in your assembly militia. But if it's comprised of more details, more committees, and the effort is not only in operation validation, but also provisional detail. So your state may be rich in resources with certain materials that your assembly is fond of, familiar with. Some of your assembly members may be working in those areas of resources that your assembly has, and it's just part of their service to the people, to their state, and to neighboring states for catastrophe rebound efforts, other things that have to do with quick reaction for disasters, equipment that you may have, above ground manufactured equipment, those kinds of things, skills, and the like. This will all go into provisions. But again, if you only have enough time, which we all do, only enough time in a day and dedication and familiarization, and then you only have so many committees that you can burrow into by way of a subcommittee, then you would definitely need more of yourself. So taking on more than one, upwards of 3 is very useful and very doable for American state nationals who are not pursuing state citizen roles. So that makes that work. Any questions on option B? And they're succeeding. Anybody here, I don't know if Marvin's here, but being Texas and over 250 counties, I can guarantee you Marvin is not going to do this role all by himself. He cannot do that. It's just if he could give it a good try, he can then share with us how he was not ultimately not able to maintain an advocacy role covering down on his entire assembly militia by himself. It's just not practical. But if you're a smaller state, for sure, you can most likely handle quite a bit of the effort. And especially if your first focus is assembly validation, assembly militia pillar validation, then yes, this is where you want to be in this posturing. And then you move into C, again, inevitable, where you start to delegate or cross-train or cross-work, share your work. If you're really clicking along well, even 3 people can cover down on assembly militia outreach, which may be a joint committee between the General Assembly's outreach efforts and your own assembly militia pillars education or membership, something somewhere it can fit in there to help, because both of those efforts actually fuel and provide momentum to your General Assembly jury pool. So that's how that's helpful. But you're not here as liaisons to validate General Assembly, International Business Assembly, or General Assembly. Just want to make that clear. Okay, so you see this flashing check then, all of which of these escalating options for liaison groupings you share through your subcommittee progress. This is when you bring this back, these efforts, even if they're small, it's fine. If it's something that you are hopeful for, but is not yet existing on your assembly, then by all means you can bring that back too as well. Something that you would hope to see, even in your own capacity, that you would like to see hopefully take shape within your assembly for your state board of defense. That's all of those things are useful. But yeah, bring them back here and we'll talk about them, and we'll definitely put them into practice during our future management meetings. Any questions? Kimberly?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I heard you properly here. You were saying, I think, that it would be the liaison's role to be validating the militia pillar in the eyes of the de facto, not the General Assembly. Is that accurate?
Right. Yeah, actually, yeah, everything is prepared, validated for prior to standing. So as far as all of the General Assembly scrutiny and efforts themselves and adoptions and no, send that back to committee, those kinds of efforts, all of that is what culminates into the validation of your assembly by way of the federation. The federation is basically looking at what the General Assembly as a whole has provided as their best effort towards something that's useful for your that brings substance to your state board of defense. And it can be very, very small. It doesn't have to be overloaded, as long as whatever your General Assembly has agreed, yep, this is safe, this is useful, this is traditional, this has plenty of room to grow with more resources and participation and skill sets, and all of these things, practice, all of these things we're fond of this, proud of this. This is an effort we put forward. This is what helps us to say, yep, we're ready to stand up and take on these proper elections and support the roles that we're providing as the General Assembly, for your state General Assembly, for your state, all of those things combined. Then among you, a liaison who has been trained in this manner by the Federation, you yourself go in with the proper training and then advocate and then be the one that says, yep, this is it. That I've to try to make it really simple. I've watched this effort grow. I've asked the questions and answered the questions back and forth. The Federation has that are hoping for things, certain expectations that that the Federation is anticipating and hope, and again that recommends, in a sense. I'll give you an example. Water purification is one of the first, and consistently is the first of what the Federation is hoping that all states will focus on as part of their foundational build outs that carries their assembly militia services. And we can go into a whole lot more. Of course, this is day 0, so we'll spare everybody those other examples of how your state assembly can work, your state assembly militia can work. And we do have something that you can actually lay what you are working on. The foundation for that is the Swiss Canton method. So that's something that that's going to be built into this manual. And it's a really, really super great way to you can bring back to your assembly militia commander who may be looking around saying, well, where do I start? Where do I start? Or where do I go from here after this point? We've achieved this much. We've focused on medical services, such as Washington, which is really great. I mean, that was really clever of them to focus on reacting to catastrophes, either man-made or natural, or a combination of both. And then they focused on going in and helping to put out fires and to evacuate people who may be in burning buildings, those kinds of things. Really super great. And they've, from day 1, I believe, that's what they've centered their first service to their state. Well, take that same effort and now in others that they may be working on, and then lay those upon another recommendation that the Federation has put out, is the Swiss Canton method to help for community resilience. These are the kind of other the foundation that you can bring back to your assembly militia commander and say, here you go, here you go, check this out. Be excited, be kind of fun about it. There's nothing that needs to be too daunting with this effort. But this is something that we did not touch upon, I don't believe, during 2024, building a recognized 153-year-old proven solid community resilience model, and that's the Swiss Canton method model. Okay. 30. All right, we're right at almost at the bottom of the hour, so we can open it up. Let me just explain this a little bit more. This slide is open for a reason. One moment, Nick. Sorry. Well, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead before I dive into this part. Go ahead.
Just quick question. Are you going to have anything specific, like in the blog or anything like that, for the liaisons to take back to the militia commanders as far as the Swiss Canton method, or is it just at this point just kind of send them an email, say, hey, heads up, this is coming down the pipeline? I yield.
Yeah, great question, Nick. We actually started putting in something that anybody can extract from regarding Swiss Canton discussion material and committee synergistics outline. You'll find this in the very below the footer on the PKTF news site. Even right now, if you have a separate device, if you want to split screen, you can go there. And Kathy, help me out, or somebody. How does Dropbox work? Can people put things into the same Dropbox that they visit if they're given access to that, or how does that work? Help me out.
I think you have to have shared access, don't you, Kathy?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Okay, I think I answered my own question as soon as that. But yeah, so yeah. Shared access, I guess we can learn how to do that and just build that as a repository and drop relevant and pertinent information in there for all to see. So it's a really great addition to the site. It will start migrating elsewhere, but just as a Dropbox in general and a file dedicated for that, you can go there now and pull things out. Other things needs to go in there, like the committee synergistic outline. It's it needs to be updated by the Federation or under recommendations to the Federation this month. It's a 6-month-old outline that we kind of gauge our participation on. You're probably not seeing it there if you're there now, but it'll be in there tonight as well, along with the update of the 4th location that we have of liaison offices. So California will be updated to that map. But yeah, the Dropbox will be updated tonight, time permitting, and this build out here. So if you can picture here, this is going to have to be made a little bit more universally, I guess, identified as the content. But this book here, it's going to cover 24 months. So when it's completed, it should be completed by the end of the administrative leave for this year, and probably sooner, hopefully, so that we can start using it for management meetings for liaisons who are either on board or in the process. So it's going to be a little bit cumbersome. I'm dropping this on Kathy. She's probably not aware of this effort, but we do want to start to move away from just education only, and then now start moving into the dynamics of actual training, and then having meetings with the liaisons in a different setting. So that's what this manual will be provided in. Every 2 years, every 24 months. It will cover not just your handbooks, but also other areas that facilitates foreign state assemblies. So Gwen and Mark and anybody else from the other English-speaking countries, and even countries that are not English-speaking, they'll have the benefit of at least gleaning from this policies manual. And you'll find also inside the handbook for what liaisons are offering, at least in America, and just take as you will the foreign state assemblies, land and soil jurisdiction, and run with it. But that's our approach to having something in hand that substantiates training, and that can be read from even just anybody that's interested. The counterparts for your peacekeepers will also be apprised of this manual and can access it at their leisure as well. So that's that. We'll provide more in 2 weeks or on these dates. So it could be it could be day 1 or day 2. But maybe Luis has something for you guys on day 1, training day 1. So we may wait till day 2, which is April 12th, to start breaking ground on this. To answer Nick's question, what we're going to do is we're going to collate information, which was the whole purpose, to have articles and to offer commentary, questions and answers from those articles, and then pull all of that experience and content put together in a handbook form. So that was and is still the purpose for having articles provided and commentary that helps to bring together the actual the handbook, the liaison handbook, which will be inside of this. Again, there will be other aspects that will be coming down and that will evolve to help facilitate other areas that are outside of the liaison service, but then touches on other services that the Peacekeeping Task Force offers as well, outside of the role of liaison. But it definitely has quite a bit to do, nearly everything to do with the liaison success. But we have liaison offices. The Peacekeeping Task Force in itself is a liaison, a derivative of the Federation and the effort for peacekeeping. So it builds out more than just the role of a liaison, which is certainly involved enough as it is. But all of you as working with the Peacekeeping Task Force in this capacity, you're really there to amplify the Peacekeeping Task Force without us or the Federation actually joining in or asserting any kind of assistance that may compromise sovereignty or maybe question the Federation entertaining any kind of idea that any outside source is offering services outside of your state. You're actually here from your state representing safety, advocating for your state's own safety. So it's just the Peacekeeping Task Force and the Federation's effort reverberates itself by way of adequate training through your efforts to advocate for your own state's safety efforts. And I know that makes sense, but that's quite a long-winded way of illustrating what this is ultimately. All right. So more to follow on that slide. We can kind of go right into Q&A now. I'll go ahead and stop my screen share.
Okay, any questions? There we go. Richard?
Thank you. I wanted to say that I know here in Illinois, our militia assembly is almost non-existent. We don't have very many active members, and everybody is pretty much focusing right now on trying to learn the jural assembly roles and we don't have a lot of active people filling roles like the militia commanders or sheriffs, or we have one marshal at arms. And one of the things that I've decided to do to try and help facilitate a better comprehension of the purpose of the militia and the militia assembly is I've suggested maybe organizing some training classes if we can get them for like emergency EMT classes or CPR, life-saving type classes, or any other emergency preparedness class, especially with Illinois being bordered by the Mississippi on the west. I know that growing up in Rock Island County, right there on the river, we had flooding every year. And so I know that there's a lot of counties along the Illinois or along that side there that are going to experience flooding. And if there's any kind of disaster preparedness we can help educate people with, I'm trying to get to organize physical meetups where we can meet for groups, training sessions as classes to help do some outreach and some inreach, either outreach to bring new people into, hey, what are these people doing? They're from the Illinois Assembly. Hey, or to do some inreach, because I know we have a lot of inactive people that are status corrected on Illinois, but don't seem to be active in the assembly, whether that's because they don't see us really doing anything. They've been here for a couple of years, and what are you guys doing? And I'm trying to do all of this in a coordinated, constructive way to get education for people, because the people are the militia. And I have a hard time, a lot of people don't seem to make that connection, that is what militia means. Militia means the people. And our job as the militia is to take care of each other. And whether that's through hand-to-hand communications, hey, help the neighbor change the tire, or if it's, hey, let's try and plan some preparedness in case, because we have tornadoes that come through here and we have severe flooding that we have to deal with. So let's try and get some of the regions of our state prepared for those disasters, because they're probably going to happen. I yield. Oh, I'm sorry. I also want to say, David, I know you probably have a lot of pushback from Missouri. We've talked before, and I was
I'm not
thinking,
even part of Missouri, man. What are you talking about? I'm
and
interim, dude. I'm interim.
and that's what I mean. And that's wrong. They may
Yeah.
not realize the value of your position right now because of a bad taste that's been left from previous experiences, maybe. But that may be something, a way that you can show them, try something similar, try and organize. I don't know how many people you've got on Missouri, how big your assembly is, but you can try and organize some practical training applications, whether that's through online meetings to go over stuff like militia handbooks or something, which I've also gotten from the militia all states meeting I went to earlier this month. I haven't got a chance to look at them yet. And like Jimmy Fulton, I believe, said, they're all just in the works process. Look at them, read through them, critique them, do what as always, it's all information that you can assimilate to yourself, but you may want to try and organize some stuff like that to show them the value of our position, and that we're not here to take control of anything. We're here to help them educate and communicate. That's our main job, in my opinion.
Well, my Missouri Interim Sessions Committee is completely supportive of it. And if we were the Missouri Assembly proper now, I'd have no problem whatsoever getting anything and everything having to do with the PKTF, liaison communication, and whatever subcommittees. We'd be actively promoting the militia subpillar and the whole 9 yards. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but that doesn't keep me from reaching out and talking to you and sharing some ideas. You'll have to share your email with me again. I'm sorry, I misplaced it when you shared that with me with the all-state militia meeting.
I'll put it in the chat.
Thanks, buddy.
No problem. I yield.
Thank you.
I'm trying to escape this slide here. Let me stop screen sharing so I can do that. I want to be able to share with what was just discussed on the diversifying or sharing information. So let me just try to get to that again. Second. And again, so I'm sharing with you, everybody here in real time. What you're able to do then is, take back portions that you have learned or that you're already familiar with or being reminded of, and bring these back to your assemblies for just to kind of gain support, add familiarity, all of that, all of those good things. With Jim Fulton, mentioning Jim Fulton, you see here, sorry. Where am I at here? Trying to get to the news site. One moment. So I'm walking everybody through what you'll be walking people through, whether you describe it to them, screen share, type it out. The opportunity to meet where you are or where you would have others. So again, Illinois has mentioned that they have no militia functions at all as of yet. Well, because who is it, William? Was it William in Illinois? Can you guys hear me?
No, yes, I can hear you. No, it's Richard on Illinois.
Richard, sorry, Richard. Yeah, so you're sharing with David on Missouri how you can kind of build out that network. Well, so from here, if you go to the events section or site, and this would be you all working together, sharing information together. Don't think that, or anticipate that people may have already been here and know it well. Just kind of take the opportunity to be that little bit of a broken record and show them yet again, because you have new folks coming in, people considering coming in and have access to your General Assembly replays. We'll just share with them how they can become more involved and how to pursue participation on those international calls. So let me go to a fresh page here. My point is with regards to militia outreach. Let's see here, 50 states. I think this is it right here. Yeah, so I'm showing you all now, but you can show your assemblies in turn how to locate how to get an invite to those meetings and find out more about it. So Jim Fulton is the host. Here's the time slot, recurring time frame. You can add it to your calendar. What you're not getting with this these notifications is the actual link itself. The reason behind this is many reasons, because sometimes the links will change. Oftentimes they'll change for whatever reason. But it also keeps the host from being inundated on that meeting, and there may be just enough space or whatever. And just people, because of it being advertised here, we also want to kind of provide a little layer of throttling, if you will, but also let the host know more about who is inquiring. So if you go here, like any of these others that you see listed on international calls, to receive an invite, you're going to be prompted an inquiry form, taking you back to the blog section here in a separate page, which all of the additional pages are found here. But you would fill out this, just a simple 2-page data survey interest, and that same completed form, once it populates, will be then sent to Jim Fulton. So he'll be able to know basically the gender, the age bracket, where what you're interested in, these kinds of things. And so I'll walk you through a little bit of that, see what that looks like for you. So me, man, age. What am I interested in? So right now, this was built for assisting militia information. Now you can fill out as many as you would like, but the system is aware that you are inquiring on how to receive an invite for this call. And so that would be probably among the first that you chose. You might want to see something else that's interesting. Maybe Jim doesn't provide that information during his meetings, but you can still, you know, add maybe something else in here. Maybe martial arms is maybe the second thing. Click. All right, so there's two. Put your name in, first or last name, email. Okay. County, state and county. So, all right. So again, this is Jim getting this, right? Or any of the other hosts of international calls. So now they kind of know a little bit about you, just a little bit. Now you can even share with them how frequently do you either attend meetings live or how often do you just maybe glean from the replays. So here's a question. How would you rate your general interest regarding the first selected peacekeeping service? So that was the first. On the first page, the first one I clicked was Marshal at Arms. I mean, militia commander. So I would say a 4, not a 5, but a 4. So the next one would be, how often do you attend live meetings? Halftime. You know, brief description of what you're anticipating. That's it. Let them know here, and Jim as well, if you know, if you would like to recommend or share the same effort here, and then push send if it goes through, wherever it's missing here. But then it goes through, and then the host sends that then to Jim. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, can you hear me? I just wondering, when I went to this page, I didn't know nothing what nothing meant, or do we have a definitions on all those, like martial arms and alliance? I didn't know what it was, so I didn't click on
Okay,
it.
right. Okay, so Assembly Militia Commander. So are you asking, you know, you're aware of some of these, but not all?
Yeah, when I first
Yes.
found this page, and you know,
Okay, great question. So we'll go through and I'll audibly just touch on what these are. Assembly Militia Commander is somebody who is an advisor to your various Assembly Militia Pillar committees that supports your militia assembly pillar. Okay, and what the difference is, but your militia commander, field commander, he advises and he provides the operations and is accountable for what takes place on your state regarding state border defense. So you'll find out more information, and Jim can provide some detail on that, on how that works. Okay, so then moving to PKTF Assembly Liaison. Okay, all of these are either direct peacekeeping, card carrying peacekeepers, commissioned and all advocates for peacekeeping, like a Peacekeeping Task Force Assembly Liaison, or a support element within the Federation regarding peacekeeping. We're all peaceful, and so everything hinges on that and supporting that. Staff director, go ahead. Sorry.
is there anywhere you can have a page or something for the definitions so somebody can kind of click on it and know what it is?
Well, okay, so staff director, that's a great question, and your answer will be that will be provided based on your question there. But here's an example of where some of these definitions are. Staff directors within the Peacekeeping Task Force, or directorate, we are now starting to take on deputy directors. So here, right here in the right margin, you see here, are where some of the information that describes, and if I click this out, this whole margin will build out about 5 times the length page of the website. But here's one way, but absolutely, we can put things together for you, providing descriptions.
Yeah, I think that would help a little bit if somebody new comes.
Good. Sure.
They might not know what it is.
Dispatch logistics operator. We already have Bobby Cirillo who's on the call. He can tell you more about that. This helps to substantiate your logistical dispatching communications network. So if your state has a communications apparatus in which it should, and it will have eventually on some level, would you like to be the one who dispatches and answers calls coming in through the communications network? Live chat facilitator, you see it in the bottom here. As far as PKTF goes, right now nobody's available online. if they were, you'd be prompted to say, hey, would you like to talk with somebody about this site and other peacekeeping task force sites? If somebody was at the panel, then you can go here, click that, and talk with somebody live. If you would be interested in that, you can do that. You click that. Newsletter editors. Not only are we about peacekeeping, but we'd like to report about it, and the like. This is somewhere either you work with the Federation helping with newsletters, or you're an actual local news reporter yourself and journalist for local news, and you would like your pieces syndicated by the Peacekeeping Task Force, which is another backbone of what the Peacekeeping Task Force was always intended to be. We perfect communications and networking regarding peaceful endeavors. So that's what that one is. End user distributor. This is about the first generation communications. If you would like to distribute radios for your state and others, you can do that. Learn to do that. Oversight committee liaison, what that might mean for your assembly in the future or not. Soil jurisdiction county reeve or county guardians. Local journalist, it ties back into email or newsletter editor. Organizational ombudsman, Peace Bears Network moderator, deputy director. So, yep, these are all of these. I won't go through, but I'll definitely put that together for you, Brian, and everybody else. It's a really great question.
Thank you.
I'll stop screen sharing. Any other questions?
Yes, revisit my earlier question there. So are the assembly militia liaisons the same thing as the General Assembly PKTF assembly liaisons? Because I presupposed really.
Well, David, no, the only area where your liaisons would be providing something yourselves or themselves as a team. It's not really the focus on the GA floor because you're working in committee and you're advocating for a specific purpose for your assembly militia. So there's no, I mean, because everything is in committee, you'd be there on the floor just waiting for your opportunity to, in other areas to either adopt or send things back or ask questions and then ballot for electing, those kinds of things. Yeah, there's no, except for outreach, the liaisons are not really, they don't really find themselves, except for just being a fellow statesman yourself, or status corrected man or woman for your state. So you'd be there in that capacity.
Yeah, I'm understanding that. I think I was getting confused on the title, wondering if they were one and the same because of that article there that I had responded to before. So yeah.
Now you will have a working relationship with your current marshal at arms and sergeant at arms. That's a given.
Yep.
It's absolutely paramount. So.
And the outreach part I think is really interesting too. I think Kim on Michigan there, I know she's really active with that, and that's Louise I know is going to talk to us more about where we play in on the resurgence project with all of that. So yep.
All right. Great question. Anybody else?
Mark has a question, Joe.
Go ahead, Mark.
Mark, you can unmute.
Thank you. I'm just going to follow up of a situation that happened on Victoria last week, and I've got an invitation to return a telephone call to a sheriff's office on Victoria. I'm just wondering what would be the prudent way to handle bringing them into awareness, which would be their first experience in dealing with us in terms of the PKTF liaison on Victoria there, Joe. If I could get some assistance with that, I'd be most appreciative.
Mark, don't you have you have a developing, what is it called, PKTF Australian version of Peacekeeping Task Force? And I know what is the acronym for that?
I think it's
PKTF?
it varies in a whole pile of ways, Joe, and I'm not sure of the current iteration of that.
Right. Okay. So what probably the best thing to do for yourself is to actually kind of touch base with that budding effort, that organization, and kind of see how you would start to. I don't know the details of the issue that you're referring to exactly, Do you and I have a meeting coming up this weekend between trainings? I don't know if you have one scheduled for me.
Well, I can certainly schedule something. That's no problem at all. Just trying to work out, for the first time that we're doing this.
Yeah.
So we're just trying to handle it in the most prudent manner. Yeah, so anyway, we can just go forward. That's no problem.
Yeah, let's do that. It's been a while since I've spoken with you, Mark. I think last October was the last time you and I talked. But what we can do is, build your situation there that you're describing and put it into action as a scenario for everybody here to appreciate and build upon. That sound good? Oh, I don't hear you, Mark. I'll take that as a maybe. Okay.
He's unmuted, so he may be having an issue. He dropped
Yeah.
off earlier, so.
Okay. All right. So
Is that correct?
Yeah. Wait, say that again, Mark. That was rubber banding a little bit.
No, I do apologize. I'm getting glitch.
I know Mark's out in the bush, so it's a little bit an issue for him, communication wise. What we'll do also we'll revisit what Mark's trying to share here, but I believe he's having an issue that he's wanting to try to template out or something to that effect, some kind of interaction that he's hoping to build. Let's see here. Now, what we'll talk about, again, just the familiarization of the site, each segment. Just expect to be met with when you sign on to these trainings, that same slide, familiar slide with the PKTF logo there, a reflection of it, dated, what the meeting is about, and bullet points therein. So expect that. And then we'll just build out from there. What I'm going to add to that is content where we'll start to break ground on the difference between Marshal at Arms and Sergeant at Arms, why it matters, why it was created as we're learning in that order, particularly, and the significance of shedding that borrowed term seagoing terminology and effect of office, and then to a land-based service for your assemblies. We'll talk about that. We'll add it to our building out of our training handbook for liaisons, and we'll just continue going on from there throughout the rest of the year. Go ahead, David.
That one position back on the previous screen, the provost, was that a provost marshal liaison? Was that or what was that title again? It had something to do with provost marshal? That's military, isn't it?
It's called Provo Marshal, or it's pronounced Provo Marshal. Yeah, we're trying to find out more about what that is. So as we go, and we will find out by the Solicitor General more about the status of a Provo Marshal and the liaison between that. Really great point. This was something we were trying to get under early last year, even before the liaison training. So we're definitely going to revisit that, and that's why it's on that peacekeeping interests.
Well, the reason that screamed out at me when I saw that was somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that was an interface on our land and soil jurisdiction ever since the Civil War and the occupation, because of the labor code and everything, and the provost marshal interfaced with the actual American people, or at least probably our state citizens would have been our state citizens. So not trying to give a history lesson or anything, but when I saw that, I was like, that sounds really familiar. I wonder how that applies here, So
yeah, there's plenty of evidence out there, not even 80 years ago. Even films illustrated how roaming provost marshals as a group, either on foot, horseback, or in an automobile, actually roamed just outside of cantonment because of GIs on rest and relaxation or whatever the case may be. Were out being unruly, basically their citizens or their soldiery, and could be out of uniform and should be out of uniform. But whether they were or where they weren't, were they acting unruly? Today we can interpret that as the same provost marshal now policing, or at least they're present to then suggest, hey, your augmented paramilitary are unruly, are acting undisciplinary on outside of your cantonment. So that could be something that the provost marshal will return to if it is significant to any degree. That is what a provost marshal would do. They would be in that setting, be dispatched to a police sheriff office or police department, or even a sheriff's office to investigate misdeeds or actions on becoming an officer for whatever reason, in that realm. It's brand new, but at least in our mind, but it's not uncommon of a suggestion or a potential service that they used to offer, not just to GIs that are on rest of relaxation, but anybody who's paramilitary or outside of cantonment. So we'll find out more about that. That's in the future. Good, really good question, Brian.
I couldn't have
Provost
given
Marshal.
nearly as good an explanation as you just did, but everything you said rang true with how I was imagining that role in my mind based off the scattered pieces of information I'd heard about that in the past. So yeah, thanks for that explanation. It was just very interesting.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. Okay, we're a little bit over past 9 because we're a little bit over starting. It's 7:30, so welcome back, everybody. Happy anniversary. Was it good? Bobby, do you have anything to share to bring us into our next training day regarding radios? Do you have anything?
Man, where do you want me to start, boss?
Oh, I know. I already know
Where do you want me to start? All right. Can I have a
underestimate.
screen share? I'm just gonna blow your minds right now, okay? And just know that if I had a recorder on Maryland, I could have had 4 Maryland chiefs of police, part of the IACP, sign as dual citizens because they're having problems with the fact, though, specifically attorney generals. Seems that all the attorney generals are turning against the because there's 2 departments within a department. So all the guys who do the right thing or anyway, so let me just give me a screen share. Let me share this video and tell you just give you an idea of where the mobile dispatch is heading.
Okay.
Aviation is going to be a full on board thing. So
Yeah, I saw your helicopter clips. You were up a little bit high there. What were you surveying? Or were you just training aviation?
no, I was just at that point. I was just observing.
Right. Well, so everybody, we're getting the opportunity to see where Bobby is. He's the one that's spearheading and giving all kinds of momentum to our communications effort. The other aspect of your efforts for state border defense and communication build out. Bobby is the one that's guiding every aspect through and through. Super, super exciting. So just
okay, guys, hang tight 1 second. I hope
be
there's not
prepared to
bad.
have more information provided by Bobby in the future.
Turn the kids away. I don't know what's on here. So let's see. Hold on a second, guys. There we go. Oh boy, here it is. Oh, turning! Hold on! Back! Move! Yeah, drone. Evac! Let's see, let's get this here.
Oh,
quick
yeah.
video, guys. Yeah, one more time, Joe. All right, let me hang tight one sec. All right, enough of that for now. How do
Well, I
I?
guess there's this, thanks, Bobby. I guess there's
Go
a
ahead, yep.
scenario of where sources like that might be needed. That's interesting. Now, can you explain a little bit of how, I guess, in a drastic situation, or a rescue of sorts, or child trafficking rescue of sorts, I guess that's how that might fit in with what you're talking
Yeah,
about. I know you're working on communications mainly, and air rescue, and a lot of other things, canine training and those kinds of things too. So
yes, communications is the point. There's some things I have to settle first before I could kind of delegate that to somebody. We have to get radios flashed. So, out of all this, besides, meeting these chiefs and things like that, they need help. They don't know what to do. Um, there's an actual, how funny things are. There's an actual position created 2 years ago within the U.S. Marshal Service, specially designated by somebody I know, very lawful officer. She was first SWAT sergeant. She was my sergeant. We've been through a lot of stuff together. She's current U.S. Marshal. And part of this is she's been screwed by these people here. So part of this is coming up with something to reach out, because that's probably going to be our contact. And her job description is basically liaison between the Marshal Service and all the states. How convenient, right? So, I mean, I haven't talked to her in years. However, the people I was just with speak to her every day. So they're fully aware of what's going on. Just to let you guys know, I have been with outreach. I've been making contact with probably well over 150 people within, basically every department close to territorial president as we could get. They all know about Peacekeeping Task Force. So far, we haven't gotten any slack because, everything out there we're putting good. We're trying to promote, like, listen, if you guys are out of jobs, we're here to take you. Like, listen, here's what's going on. Like, we understand you have a role to play. Let's work together, type of thing. And
excellent.
The thing with the Chiefs is their system is failing them. So they've reached out to me because what I've been labeled as a lunatic for, they're starting to realize they can't see it unless it happens to them. And then the world comes crumbling down. They're like, oh, he wasn't crazy. So they're all starting to get there now. So it's about the breaking point of being really good. I think we're going to have one big resistance because the Attorney General's office is definitely up to something. My passport card, basically a diplomat going to Washington, BWI, coming
Excellent.
home, woohoo, coming home. I sat there for about an hour and a half, about 50 flight TSA people dressed in all TSA uniforms came from some weird plane from the UK. Every single one of the TSA uniforms spoke native British English. Every single one of them. Every single one of them in the BWI airport. Every single person employed in there. There was not one. How do I put this? It was weird. There was not one sheriff's officer, Maryland Transportation Authority. I know the chief of Maryland Transportation Authority. Okay, they were not to be seen inside the office. The only thing was British speaking PSA agents. Very weird.
Within the airport, I
In
can
the
see that
airport,
that's,
in the airport.
of
Yep,
course,
MDTA was still on the
because that's,
outside, but yep.
yeah, because that's, that's a federal, yeah.
With that,
Okay.
with that, I got stopped, right? I got stopped. I got scanned. They said my birthday was wrong. I went 1,000 different times, right? Luggage was pulled. Weird, really weird. So yeah, it's definitely something's up. Whatever. Any other questions about the radios? I just have to get past this stuff, guys. Listen, I have to
Sorry to,
delegate these radios. Whoever.
sorry to put you on the spot with that.
No,
What
no, no, no.
What I'll let everybody know, yes, Bobby is moving into other areas that may require more kinetic concerns that maybe our assemblies don't yet offer. But certainly communications and having the ability to communicate with some of these other elements that are trying to do their own cleanup, you know. So it's something we're not, any of our assemblies are not there with, but certainly communications, that's what we want. We want everybody to be able to communicate and have an ability to, when they see something that's concerning, especially with regards to human trafficking or anything that has to do with border breaches, you know, people who are not supposed to be here or may not be acting as they should, you know.
Joe,
That's what's about the communication. So more on that as well, Bobby. I don't want to have to put you on the spot like that. I'm sorry. I know you're really,
listen,
really busy.
no, listen, all the people who LinkedIn's a really good thing because it shows your history and that you're legit. Okay. It's not just like some Facebook stuff. You have references and what you put on LinkedIn, people can verify, So
Right, of course.
based off the people I know, I mean, there's people from Customs, Border Patrol. I mean, heads, chiefs of staff, like in my shit. And I'm reaching out to them. Please come to me. Like, I mean,
I see them there too. Let me with that what you're saying. Oh,
yeah,
one
please
last
do.
screen share if you guys are still here. Sorry. If it's.
I mean, I'm in contact, literally in contact with everybody in Clark County. I mean, I got the sheriff, I got the executives, the attorneys, the lawyers, the attorney generals. Everybody's on my thing. Like, just yeah, go through that. Please do.
Well, I'm just going to show where everybody, if you try to find a place to land and then kind of, grab information, go ahead and what Bobby just mentioned and join our LinkedIn, where we do want to meet with other professionals. You can share your same profession. If it's about community resiliency and anything that you'd like to offer and know more about, you know how LinkedIn operates. So you can go, I don't know if this is going to go to my page exactly. Maybe it will. So yeah, go ahead and follow here. You can follow Bobby's work as well. If we have a presence here, you have a presence here as a liaison, even if you have a general interest. And just start building out your network of professionals and people who are truly dedicated beyond just social networking. That's what the LinkedIn channel for the Peacekeeping Task Force is.
Hey, Joe.
So this is just my link to it, but yeah, go ahead.
I'm not seeing the LinkedIn. I just see your beautiful scenery. I want to know where that is because I want to go there.
Okay, well, so I'll put it in the.
So,
how about this?
Joe, can I just jump in and say one more thing while we're doing that? Between the chiefs and I, as we were discussing, they have something. A girl I trained to fight in some of the MMA stuff we were doing in the police department. She was a sergeant. Anyway, she's an FBI Leota instructor. And what FBI Academy does is all the police chiefs and the sheriffs and everything go through the FBI Academy, and that's where I say they lose their souls. Okay, it's basically just like a leadership program. So what I came up with was to have PKTF, kind of have a parallel, a national academy for PKTF to get those people who come from Leota. Not that Leota is a bad thing because it works in their jurisdiction, but to have PKTF on top of that, have them go through our academy as well, and to have one of us assigned to them to teach their liaisons because they're going to need PKTF.
Absolutely.
They want PKTF liaisons on their side, but with the AGOs, it seems like nothing's going to happen. The only thing I can really do is work with the retired guys or the chiefs who just are so fed up with what's going on that, I mean, I'm talking to people from different states, like attorney general, sheriffs from Michigan, like senator, like it's out of control.
Well, Bobby, what we're going to need is because I know the information is raining down onto you because of your resources or your references and your connections and whatnot. So all of the content that you're pulling together, we want to put that in the operate policies and procedures operations manual.
So
that you just
and what, because it wasn't just them, it was bar attorneys, and I literally just said, listen, speak freely, and I basically showed them all my case files, and they were just like I'm gonna burn right now because like their walls just went crumbling in.
We don't want that to happen to the
no. Well, the interest is how do I support a living? How can I come do this the right way and support a living? Like, so there's a lot of interest. There's a lot of interest from bar attorneys because you know, they flew me out there literally overnight. Like, can you get on a plane in 3 hours? I'm like, yeah, put your money where your friggin' mouth is. I'm like, next thing I know, I got a friggin' ticket to VWI. I'm like, oh shit, okay. So then, I made a bunch of notifications saying, like, this is where I'm gonna be. Like, I didn't suicide myself, but it wasn't like that at all. Like, the person I was staying with, literally just got back from Paris Island from a supercar show with a bunch of Ferraris. He stayed in, the barracks, which doesn't happen because he's an ex-high official Marine, and brigadier generals and stuff were taking
Bobby,
pictures.
obviously you're very, very excited about a lot of the things. I know you've been busy all of this week, probably
So
busier
anyway,
than I've ever known you to
I'll,
be.
I'll
So
yield. Listen, there's good things coming. We're gonna get a little slack, but after the slack, there's something you gotta realize something too. I forced the executive order from Trump. It's 13.848, okay, and executive order 13.848 basically gives them a right to Gitmo if they don't act within the limits. Okay, so what that does, it doesn't basically say who the problem is. It emphasizes who the problem is not with, and basically leads to the swamp. So with that being said, I basically laid out the transfer of governance of what's going on now and the role of Space Force in this whole thing, and it's a joint coalition, and that there's some orders from Space Force proving that there is a transfer of powers, governance going on right now, and it's basically written in the form to, all right, I can't remember the word for the words, but for the nation, okay, meaning the nation state, the United States, okay, for the nation, okay, to advise the decision makers on what to do for the benefit of the nation. Who are the decision makers? It's the Federation of States, okay?
right.
So that's what's going on right now, and I think I'm going to yield with that. So
Well, can't wait to meet up with you, Bobby, on all of that. Needless to say, your office hours at your liaison office is going to open up more than it's listed already. I can see. All right, so thanks for that, for sure. Interesting.
Thanks for your help, Bobby.
Quite a bit to digest there on that one, but sure, we'll hear from you again, I'm sure, on that. All right, so we're a little bit over. I hope everybody appreciate a little bit of each other's time over 9 o'clock, so my time. So there we go. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. And if you have any questions on please email or for sure comment on any of the articles, and visit our sites, your sites, our site, and spread the word to your assemblies.
Thanks,
Okay,
everybody.
March 29th, same time, same Zoom link.
There you go.
You may or may not get a reminder from me. I'll try to send it out, but
Thanks.
it's the same.
Thanks, Bobby.
same
That
time.
was exciting, dude.
Thanks
Good
a
to see you,
lot.
Bobby.
Thank you,
Everybody.
everybody. Enjoy.
anytime, guys, enjoy. A lot more to come. A lot more to come.
I know.
Thank you all. Peace.